How do you say, I love you? Where do you say it from? I suspect that mostly in the world it comes from the head, or nobody knows where they're saying, I love you from. But it's such a precious statement that surely it has to have a source somewhere in the body, somewhere away from the intellectuality of the head, which is always chatting and verbalizing all sorts of nonsense. Surely the words might come out of the head, but where do you say I love you, truly love you from? Well, I say you say it from the solar plexus. You speak the words, perhaps from the mouth. But it's a tangible thing. Of course, it's abstract, but it's tangible. A bit of a contradiction there in the solar plexus. That's where you say, I love you. That's where love is. Not to be confused with the chest or the belly, the chest often being invaded by emotions, and the belly being the seat of emotions, and the solar plexus is right between the two. But you have a look at it, please. I love you. And of course the solar plexus is simply the plexus or the complex of the whole body. So it's not surprising, is it, that love being such a precious statement when it's real is said from the solar plexus. There it is there now. That is the complex of the body. Now, intellectualism comes from the head, and all the senses are in the head. And that's why it is said or has been said, you're better without your head. And that's true in a way. But you're better to keep your head and start to transfer your center to where the center is in your body, solar plexus. The central plexus, the place of light, the solar, the sun plexus. Now you can discover this, and should discover it, I suggest, for yourself. I love you. Where does it resonate? You know, resonance is the word, isn't it? Otherwise, everybody's vibrating all over their body. But when you start to resonate, you can get to the solar plexus, I love you. And of course, really, the only thing that you can love is nothing, is God. His truth, what brought you here, His life. I love you. And there it is, tangible and yet abstract. I trust that's meaningful to you. So if you do utter it with your mouth, immediacy is in the solar plexus, if it's true. I love you. Because it helps to say it often. It helps to center it, doesn't it, to get it, the resonance there. And you don't have to have somebody to say it to. Because that consciousness that I was speaking about, that extraordinary place of lights is always there inside of you. And that is God in the, let's say, the second, third, fourth, fifth instance, it doesn't matter which. I love you. I don't know what you are. I don't know what you are. I don't want to know what you are. It doesn't matter what you are. I love you. The same with life. Ah, life, I love you. I am life. So I can love you because here I am, a life form. To my awareness, I am a life form. I'm a form of life. But I've discovered the life within my form, and I love you. From this place of awareness, I love you, life. I love the life in the flowers. I love the life. I love the life in the sea. I love the life in everything. I just love you. Solar plexus. There it is, and it resonates in there, and the solar plexus comes to life. Because it's a plexus, it's a center. Nothing is wasted in love, true love. Love transforms. Love transforms everything in time. I love you. I love you. And if you really love somebody, which is that body, love somebody who is an effect of the light within you, because everything out here is an effect of the cause of the light within you. And so if you really love somebody outside and you say, I love you, you just get used to it. That's where it comes from. Solar plexus. The central plexus, the central complex, the place of the sun within us. Now there is a very special place in the crown of the head. A very special place. But few of us are ever aware of that for long. But most of the crown of the head and what is called the sacral center, which is down the sexual center, down in the genital region. Sometimes what is called, and I'll use the word, kundalini rises, can rise, rises up from the sacral center, the sexual center, which is the driving force of life, rises up from down there, up the spine, comes up, passes up into the crown center, makes the spine very straight, eyes roll up. This all happens involuntarily. Eyes roll up, tears flow. It's only there for a split second or for a couple of seconds, then it's gone. Or it travels back down again. Now that's in the world. It's not in the world, it's in the existential condition. It's in the existential condition. It's a very wonderful condition, but it still rises from somewhere, which is the sacral center, which is the driving center. The sexual center is the driving center of the whole of existence. Whether it's the seat of kundalini or whatever you like to call it, it is still the driving center of existence. There is nothing more powerful in the entire existence than sex. Now, surely I don't have to demonstrate that to you, but I tell you, I'll confirm what you've already suspected, that it is the driving centre of the entire existence. It's behind the motor cars. Motor cars were invented by sexual drive, and the sexual drive is the drive for power over somebody else and not yourself. Right? That's what sex is. Power over somebody, but not yourself. Are you hearing me? That's what sex is. So when you get the corporate world of greed, you've got power. The sexual drive is behind the corporate world of greed, and the drive of all the managing directors and all the people. And all of us who are ambitious and driven, we are driven by the sexual drive, which is the drive for power over others or things, but not ourselves. Are you hearing me? There is no other force in the world, only sex, which is the drive for power or the power over somebody else or things. End of story. You want to dispute it? You want to know where all the cruelty comes from? Comes from sex. You know where all the booze comes from? Comes from sex. All the drugs comes from sex. Some aspect of sex. And sex is the desire, the sheer raw desire for love. But you can't find it in getting power over another body through sex. And you can't get it getting power over 1,000 people or $1 billion through power over some corporate industry, in some corporate industry. But that's how we are. It is so unconscious that we don't even know this. What I've just said, you do not even know it. You haven't even realized it. I mean, if you do know it, you haven't realized it. We're talking about the only force in the entire world that causes all the wars, all the rapes, all the kinky stuff that goes on in sex, all the homosexuality, although that doesn't mean that's kinky. Love, there's nothing wrong with loving another being. It's just the sexual side that is difficult. Have you got it? Look, I'm not saying something that's not in your experience. But I say things as it is, as they are. I always get down to the nitty-gritty, down to the very basic, the fundamental of it all. And sex and sexual frustration is behind it all. So sex is the desire for love. But not just to be loved, for God's sake. Not just to be loved, to be able to love. You got to love. To get rid of the sex, you've got to love. Not be loved. Of course, every one of us loves to be loved. There is nothing more beautiful than to be loved. But there is something necessary before you can really be loved. And that is, you must be able to love. But it seems that it is the world's concept of love that I want to be loved, but I don't have to love first. I don't have to know how to love. I don't have to be loved. I can just expect it to come, or I can sex you up or something else, and you'll love me and become attached to me, and then I have power over you, and I can leave you, and I can come and enjoy you when I want to, or I can go. It goes for man or woman. You can't do it that way. You've got to love. I'm talking about really loving, aren't I? I must love to be loved. As every human being wants to be loved, and how few are loved like that. How few. But we all look for it, don't we? But when we start to love, somehow or other love comes to us. But it is our arrogance, isn't it? We expect to walk through with our moods and anger and expect somebody to love us, or then be lonely when we haven't loved. And I say you start by loving life. Stop loving your loneliness. Love life. Walk around loving life. I love you. I love you. I mean, are you so dense, and I'm not accusing you, of course, I'm just asking the question, are you so dense that you don't know that you're life? You think you're just a living, aware body out here, the robot that you are? Do you think that's all you are? Haven't you got any sense of life and your love of something that's beyond the office, that's beyond the motor car, that's beyond the house, that's even beyond the garden, but is embodied in the garden? This love of life, this love of what cannot be named except to call it life, for want of a better word, that makes the grass grow, that makes the sap travel up the tall trees, that makes the rabbit so beautiful, that makes your body so beautiful. Life. I love you. And where does that sense come from? It comes from the solar plexus. I love you. It's got nothing to do with the old kundalini coming up and working miracles and all this stuff and the eyes rolling up, which has happened to me, and all the tears and the supreme beauty of it, because it comes from the sexual center, and it is a form of love that rises up from the sexual center. So the sexual center is really love. It's not sex at all, but it does come into existence through the sexual center. And the sexual center in human affairs gets converted immediately into the desire for what? The desire for power over somebody else or some other things instead of power over myself, my anger, my loneliness, my self-doubt, my fears, my hostilities. So if you're ambitious, which is the nature of us all to be ambitious, because we've all got the sexual drive in us anyway. Why don't we want to? We are ambitious in some way. Even if we're on the dole and never work again, we're still ambitious to have friends. We're ambitious to walk down the street and have a chat to someone. We're ambitious to do something, to get something. There's nothing wrong with it, as long as you acknowledge something that is real. I love you. And pause in the midst of it all. I love you. I love you. You have to do what you must until you don't do it anymore, but you can pause and say, I love you. If you hear what I'm saying, if you get the idea of what I'm speaking of. So you have to love to bring love that is supreme, that is beautiful, that is wondrous, that is completing. For love is completing. It's not a completion, it's just completing, and completing is something that goes on and on and on and on and on. A completion is like boom. No, no, no. Love goes on and on and on, and it is completing, and I am complete in love, and I am being completed in love, and it is completing in me, and I am loved, and I love, and I am loved. That is the most superb thing in this existence, and it is there for you. If only you will love and not look or expect to be loved, but first of all, love. And what's the thing to love? What have you got to love? You've got life to love. It's there. It's given to you. Stop trying to objectify your love all the time. Stop objectifying it only in your children or the man or woman you live with. Stop objectifying it in that all the time. Go to the source of it. I love life. Walk around the garden. I love you. I love you. Not the garden. I love life. The garden is all life forms, all forms of life. The rabbit is a form of life. Everything's a form of life. But life, you have to be able to get the idea and love the idea. And the idea is not a concept. The rabbit is a living concept. Not a mental concept, but a living concept. Rabbit. The tree, the grass, all living concepts. They're living concepts indeed. But they're not, that's not what it is. It's life coming into form. Now, are you big enough to get behind because you are this? I'm not telling you something that you're not. You are life. You can't deny it. So you're prepared to love what you have? Because if it started to be taken from you, you'd soon love it. So why not love it now? There it is, solar plexus. No problems in the solar plexus, nothing. It's just the center. There it is. Now don't cover it over with thought. You don't have to do anything with thought. You just got to be there intelligently. There it is. Now that solar plexus love spreads right through the whole body. That's just the center of it, and it goes right through the whole body. It's not related to anything in the world. It's not related to any concept. It's not related to any kundalini. It's not related to anything of that name which could be named, and that's not to diminish kundalini, the power of the sexual power, which is truly love that comes up and does what I said. It's not to diminish that, but that can be named and that can be described. But what about the indescribable, which begins with the solar plexus? Ha-ha. Nothing there. That's right. But do you know that solar plexus goes right out or right in into what would be represented by the solar system? But the solar system is only a sensory solar system, so that's created by the brain. But as without, so within. So the solar plexus actually leads into what the equivalent, the inner space, which is like the solar system inside. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful perceptions in such a space. Because right space gives perceptions. Like the space here. This is right space. My consciousness and your space makes the right, converts the space. Actually converts the space where you can get right perceptions, more perceptions in this space. And that's what the spiritual life does. I create a space around my body. I'm talking about your body. To the degree that I have the resonance from the perfect body inside, from my lights inside, I have a resonance, and eventually that creates a space, because space is the closest thing to nothing in existence, around my body. And then anger cannot enter me. Resentment cannot enter me. Moods cannot enter, cannot cross this space of nothing. That's what the spiritual life's about. Creating this space, this sort of moat that they used to have in the old days to keep the enemy at bay, filled up with water and various other things, and all sorts of battlements around to keep the enemy at bay. But that is signified by your own ability in the spiritual life of getting rid of your anger and hostility and self-doubt and all the emotionalism, and creating this wonderful space, which was already there anyway, contaminated by thought and emotions. When you get rid of those, you've got a moat around your castle. And I think it was Francoise who said yesterday, well, she was talking about my tape, Start Meditating Now, which I think was I think that was the first tape I ever made, or it might have been the second. But at any rate, I said to her, well, yes, there are many important things in it, but the most important to me is where we keep our prisoners in our chest. There's a bamboo cage in our chest, speaking figuratively. in which we have emotional figures in there of all the people that we dislike or resent or have bad feelings against. It's not the people, of course. It's not the mother or the father or the past lover. It's an emotional image of them, locked in this little bamboo cage in here. And I asked Françoise, had she freed her prisoners? And she said, if I remember correctly, well, I'm working on it, but yeah, I've freed a few of them. Is that right, Françoise? Okay. And now I got something else to tell you. I don't know whether I said it in the tape. Probably did. The thing is, you cannot free them all one by one. It's impossible. You only think you can, because that's the easy way, you know. I'll get rid of this one, I'll get rid of that, and then before you know, you've got another one coming around, the ghost of it or something. And what you've got to do is open up the bamboo cage, the door, and say, all of you go. I hold nothing against any man or woman on this earth or has ever been on this earth. I hold nothing against anyone at all. Empty space. They've all gone. But what do? Oh, they say, we don't want to go, we're coming back. And they come and try and come in again. Let us open, let us come in. No, piss off, go on. Be free. We don't want to be free, we like it in there. And they keep coming back as often as they can. So you've got to be resolute. Be gone. The cage stays open. There's no comfort for you here, because this is freedom, and there's no cage anymore, and nowhere to hide. I have freed you all. I held nothing against any man or woman or any condition in my entire life. That's how it's got to be done. Can you do that? Have you done that? Why not? No good doing it one at a time.